Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and there is drama everywhere you look right now at Major 3, but 5 teams already eliminated from the tournament in remarkable fashion we are certainly going to dive into, but drama elsewhere as well. Clayster with a few words to say for his former subliners roster, and Censor making a remarkable run in the challenger side. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Really up to the channel, thank you very much indeed for doing that. Boston didn't have the greatest time today, but look at this kind of promo bid that Doug comes out with right here. Like, this guy's honestly undefeated. Now, well, first of all, Clay and his team kind of in the challenger side, just to discuss that real quick, were having a tough time. Looked like Clay's team was going to have to get like emergency fourth because his teammate Johnny couldn't fly out to the event in time. Somehow he gets on the last available flight, turns up to the venue like literally 1 minute before they were going to get forfeited, and is able to play. We'll kind of keep up on that story here in a few minutes time because that certainly gets rather spicy. But firstly, we have to talk about the first series of the day, Ravens versus New York. I'd kind of lost some faith in this Ravens team here because yes, they're third in the CDL standings and subliners in near the bottom, but as of late it's certainly looked the other way around. New York have looked really good in their respawns, but in fairness, they often seem to come out relatively slow in some of these series. And so far this season, their performance at Majors has been honestly, all things considered, pretty tragic indeed. And honestly, Ravens are kind of in, well, they had a good performance at Major 1, since then it's kind of been a bit lackluster, and really we haven't seen probably the best of Afro and these type of players in a LAN environment yet. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, these guys just turn up massively, right? In this first series up against the New York guys right here, they demolished them in the game 1 hardpoint. They take a game 2 search and destroy of them as well. Like, this is a pretty crucial round trip from London right here. Eventually it gets to a situation where probably New York shouldn't have lost, bringing this one back to a round 11 but losing it anyway in kind of classic subliners fashion. If anything, a 2-0 advantage for this point for the Ravens. Like, a similar story in fairness to what Seattle had over New York yesterday. They were able to bring that back to a game 5 round 11 1v1. Was not the case this series though. They closed it out in for the Ravens to another hardpoint victory. It's really been the hardpoint since they've had a Kismet that has been so good for them. Like, this of course was the run of round 11 in that search and destroy, of course, that they went on to win. Like, this was really such a winnable round for the subliners. They had a 4 versus 3. Here they have a 3 versus 2. And out of nowhere in well, if you guys are New York fans, I'm sure you've seen this many times before. Went from a 3v2, it just immediately becomes a 1 versus 2. And well, they end up losing this round and the map and the series in addition. 2 more to go, stay subliners, when they pulled back the control in pretty dominant fashion, but game 4 went the other way entirely. And that's the thing, like as I said, since Kismet has joined, it's been the respawns that have been so good, especially the hardpoints for New York. When you lose 2 of them to a team like London, it just haven't, well, it's an absolute disaster what's happened to them, to be honest, because look at these stats right here. They've placed, of course, their first couple of majors, difficult times, like Clayster situation, Neptune, Royalty, all this drama, but you know, now they've got a good squad. They won the Prime Classic, they looked pretty good in their qualification matches, and now they've placed top 12 at every major, despite winning the Prime Classic. So that's 0 points at majors, $0 at majors, 0 Series 1 at majors, and arguably now 0 likelihood of making champs. They still can theoretically make it. This is the cool thing about the way the format works, is if they go 5-0 and they win next major, they win major 4, they get you know, what is that, 50 points plus 65, they get another 115 plus the 70, that gives them 185. 185 would be a good enough number to qualify for champs. So you know, they just have to win every single match from here through the rest of the season and they qualify for champs. But outside of that, especially with other rivals looking rather good and will pick up points this tournament, right, the teams that are kind of in and around that ballpark, they need to well, they need to figure out something very quickly indeed, because this was the tournament. They absolutely had to score some significant points. They got of course, well, game 5 round 11 by Seattle round 1, and they lost a pretty much unlosable series here to OpTic to put up once again 0 points to the major. Disastrous situation for them. Like, you know, Krim of course frustrated with the situation, wonder what he's going to do, wonder if the team feels like something might have to give here, because the stats on the series didn't look great, despite Kismet seemingly getting initially the best out of Krim, Paul and Hydra. When he initially joined the team, maybe there was a degree of a honeymoon period going on there, because now it doesn't necessarily seem to be the case, right? And even Clayster kind of rubbing salt in the wounds, saying you really got to think, right, saying look, they shouldn't have dropped me, just shouldn't have got rid of me. Now, yeah, then again, with Clay and the team at the start of the season, they were like 0-13 in hardpoint or something, but that was with Clay and Krim. Who knows if Clay was there instead of Krim, whether this tournament would have been somewhat different, right? But of course, Clay had a pretty tough time in just a few minutes time here that we shall look at. And you know, this also from the Tactical Academy thought was fantastic. Krim not making champs for the first time in his career. It's certainly more likely than not at the present time. These final stats just look at real quick. Afro has a great series on his hands, but again, Kismet with a 0.7, Krim with a 0.8. Like Hydra, Paul kind of did their job at times, but yeah, I mean, Kismet with 48 kills, lowest damage in the lobby by a long way. That's a difficult one for him to swallow going out of the tournament top 12. Remarkable fashion, but there's plenty more to dive into. Got to mention this OpTic series, of course, up against Los Angeles Guerrillas. This, of course, a must-win for them. They didn't want to do what New York just did a few minutes before. And LAG, man, like, what a shambles of a team that they find themselves in, right? After winning Major 2, the Volk, the Spart situation that they had, they've come last place, I think, in every other event event they've entered apart from the Prime Classic that they won. And they were in losers round 1 in that tournament as well, right? So OpTic come out on the main stage right here. They won game 1 pretty comfortably here on this Bakaja. Hard points, like, honestly, there's not really too much to comment on this series. Gunless just has a really difficult time in general. Shotzzy was doing some crazy things this game 1. Like, honestly, every single player on OpTic at some point or another, with the exception of maybe a Prelude, but he was very solid this series, had their takeover moments. And of course, it is tough when you're a team like LAG and you go to, you start in losers round 1, you play OpTic, but like, it is what it is. You got to put yourselves in better positions. And this change with Gunless does not seem to have reinvigorated anything at all. This 1 versus 3 was, well, practically unlosable if you're on the side of LAG. But of course, if you are going to win a 1v3, your enemy has to kind of give it to you a little bit. But like, this is a situation, 40 seconds left on the clock here for Scump to try and retake the bomb side of 1 versus 3. There's no way that should be happening. Gunless gets kind of exposes himself right here. Scump knows where he is, comes into the room, gets the job done. I mean, this is just something that you can't let happen. Like, Sacha gets kind of turned on, not really turned on, but just like, how does this even happen? I don't know what LAG are doing half the time. And then Asim gets founded as well for the final kill. Like, Scump is so icy, man. You got to give this guy credit because at his age to do what he's still doing and be the most consistent, like one of the veteran players in the league is remarkable. But at the same time, like, what are LAG thinking in that type of situation? Does take a great player like Scump to take advantage of those situations. And well, Shotzzy, another player in a similar boat that clutches a 1 versus 2 to win them the map. So LAG, what a shambles. I don't know what they're going to plan to do. They really have very limited options now because they tried after they struggled with Spart after the Major 2 to bring Gunless back in. And if anything, they've looked worse or maybe equally bad as they were before. And this series ends very quickly indeed. 3-0 for OpTic. They respect the sleep schedules entirely. Scump had a great one, no doubt. And LAG, I mean, look at this, right? The Kickoff Classic, they were top 12. Major 1, they were top 12. The Pro-Am, they were top 16. Major 3, they were top 12. So last place, every single thing that they've played. But, first at Major 2. Empty-handed, finish in an awful position. And that's, honestly, if they lose every single series from here to the rest of the season, like, they've only got 125 points, despite winning Major 2. Like, they could not make champs. It's very plausible they don't make champs right now. The final stats are like this. Dashy has a 1.6. I mean, what can you say? Scump and Shotzzy doing their thing. Prelude was filling the gaps and everyone negative on the other side. Asim and Huke especially had kind of tough goes. I mean, Gunless as well, he had a 0.81. But, I think Huke, especially on that game 3, had a really tough time. Dashy actually, despite, I think I didn't even mention it, but Dashy went 0-5 in the Search and Destroy. And he was just chilling for the victory as Scump kind of carried them through. And then he went like triple positive in the control. So that's just kind of Dashy things at the end of the day to put these kind of numbers up at the end of the series. But a disastrous situation for both New York and Los Angeles Guerrillas going at round 1. Let's talk briefly about the challenger side because Doug St. Martin was on the grind down there. He played Clayster's team in this bracket and ended up taking them down in this series. Like, Censor, man, this guy's undefeated. We're going to be hearing about this one for the next several years, but who can blame him, right? I mean, look at this guy. He's playing Clayster in the Passion Pit. He takes him down. He does the fist bumps. He's talking the trash. Just absolutely love to see it, especially because we saw not long ago that Doug got dropped from his challengers team by Fellow on Clay's team because he was teamed with Fellow and they dropped him for Clay because, of course, Clay was coming down to challengers. They wanted to play with him instead, change around the roles, and Doug got dropped for Clayster and I'll beat him at the event. So that is legendary stuff from Doug and it continues here on in a second, actually. Just wanted to mention real quick this Toronto-Paris series. Like, in fairness, this game 1, they won pretty comfortably. Gravity was going off, probably their best player this series. Jimbo was pretty good as well. Like, again, I don't know what they're going to do with this team, but John, if he stays through this next iteration, if they do even try and make a roster change, even though I think they're very close to being mathematically eliminated from champs, because even if they were to win all their qualifiers and the major in Major 5, like 5-0 and win the major, like, because other teams that are kind of on the cusp of qualification will play each other and therefore guaranteed to pick up 10 points or so, then it's possible that Paris could even win this last major and not qualify for champs. So I don't know if they'll even try and make another iteration of this team. And of course, we got some trash talk going down game 1. Doesn't really work out for them, but of course, Gravity understandably having a little bit of fun because it's kind of rare that even going to happen right now. But in the end, Toronto they finally wake up. They kind of listen to the crowd a little bit. CleanX gets a crazy ace here actually in the Search and Destroy. You can see the replay right here. 1, 2, 3, 4 within about 4 seconds or so. Like, of course, Temp's already weak coming around this corner right here. But 4 kills in the feed. Don't see that one every day. And then it's 2-1, then it's 3-1. Job done. GG's Toronto, says Temp. He's having a tough time, understandably. But, who knows if they'll even try and do anything going forwards. Let's talk about the final series before the final OpTic series of the day then. This honestly this might be map of the year. At least the map that fried my brain the most of the year. I honestly have no idea what was happening on my screen when this was going down. Probably one of the craziest ends to a hard point you're going to see. It came down to time, almost to 250 points. Boston had a bit of a lead. It goes to this final rotation. And effectively, of course, because the clock ticks down when it's either no one's in the hard point or it's contested. So the teams effectively just had to make sure they were in the lead and then they could just contest the hard point to the end. That's what Standy does, gets the kill. Then all he has to do is just stay alive here. He actually ran out of the hard point. I thought he was going to do what he did a couple of weeks ago on Tuscan that he got roasted for, but he just has to stay alive. He remembers how to do it this time. time, and they win it 245 to 244, 1 point game. It really did feel like in this map at least that, you know, probably Boston had to win this one. And then as Havok was kind of saying in the post-game interview, that like Minnesota kind of went back to the drawing board on what they've been doing in their search and destroys, just played a pretty fundamental game in the search, won that comfortably, won the first 4 rounds, Boston won 3 back, and then they won 2 straight at the end, and then they won a pretty impressive control at the end as well. They've been really good at tasking control, winning their offense as well. The final offense was not something you can really afford to lose if you are the Boston Breach, and they are top 12 as well. Probably about time this team had a placement like this, to be honest. They just don't match up well against the better teams right now, and, you know, of course, they are still 4th in the league, I'm pretty sure, in standings, but that won't be the case for long after this tournament continues. And as Method says, you know, pathetic performance from me and the team, don't even know what to say, sick to my stomach. So they're going to have to bounce back because they should qualify for champs, but actually they're not too far above the Los Angeles Guerrillas right now, so it is far from guaranteed, with a lot of teams below them making an absolute charge this tournament. And just to mention real quick, given we talked about Boston struggling, we've got Doug Sense Martin on the Boston bench, and effectively the coach of the team that's coming here because Zed couldn't make it. He's absolutely killing it in the challenger side as well, taking down number 1 seeded EU team Team War, Game 5, Round 11. It's like, I mean, yeah, we'll obviously monitor Doug's progress as we go forwards, but we've got to talk about the final series of the day. And it really does seem like OpTic have started to catch fire now. Here they are up against London, a harder series I thought than the one against LAG, especially the Search and Destroy we'll discuss here in a second. Game 1 though, back and forth on a Gavutu, but in the end OpTic just have the edge on them, to be honest. Dashy, I mean, honestly, it was Shotzi that turned up this game 1. Dashy, but also he was a phenomenal force. It's also crazy down actually that Dashy's gone negative like 3 times this entire year. I think Cellium's also gone negative 3 times this year, so the consistency from those two is remarkable. But you know, often Dashy won't even need to do that much, but in this series he certainly did turn up, especially the game 1 towards the end when they needed to get over the line. The Search and Destroy though, this was the critical situation in the series. OpTic up 1-0, then Afro has a massive round here and wins this one. The momentum stays with London for a few rounds, they go up 5-1. This was the map, if you guys remember, that at the start of the season, I think it was one of the first online matches of Major 1 when London reverse swept OpTic. They finished off the game 5 on this very map, I believe. And well, they got 5-1 here. I thought, okay, fair play OpTic, get this one out of the way, go on to try and win the next couple of respawns. But all of a sudden, down at 5-1 in this map, something starts to happen. Now, and honestly, Scump was the catalyst. This, I mean, I already praised him earlier on in the video, but it's certainly worthy of doing again, because here he is getting, you know, 2 pieces like this for fun. I mean, the bait and switch was actually quite well done from Nasty and Afro, but, you know, Scump knew exactly what was coming. He won a nice 1v1 as well against Zero, kind of 1v1 situation, bombed down, and, you know, kind of, well, killed Zero trying to go for the ninja. It doesn't work out for him. They were stringing some cracking rounds together, and they complete the 5-1 comeback here. Honestly, I'm pretty sure London already got, well, obviously because they got full sailed by Boston Breachers. That was a 5-0 comeback. I'm pretty sure they've already choked a 5-2. This might have been the first 5-1 they've choked, but it certainly might have been up there already. So yeah, honestly, London, you can just count on them when it goes, you know, when it goes 5-3 after London are up 5-1. You probably know who's going to win the map, but I mean, still, the composure of OpTic was great, and at this point, of course, it was going to be smooth sailing pretty much for the rest of the series, especially going to a Tuscan control where OpTic are generally so good. But yeah, 1-5 to 6-5. Part of the blame certainly has to be on London, but also, like, you know, the fact that OpTic can come back from this and win a map like this is very impressive for them as well, and certainly shows that their Search and Destroy, when they start to play better and better teams, will need to get better and better throughout their losers bracket run. And this is a good example that their Bacage is definitely a force to be reckoned with against a pretty decent team like London on this particular map. And you know, the crowd reaction here, I think in the kind of the online stuff, or at least watching it from home, the crowd kind of microphone, often people say, wow, the crowd's so quiet or whatever, but often like the microphone isn't kind of turned up as loud as it can be at some venues. Like as you can see in the stadium here, it was absolutely popping off in the stadium, and understandably so. And then of course, you know, everyone's praising Scump, of course, for good reason. He goes to what, 10-5 this map. I think he went from 3-5 to 10-5, and that was a 2.33 S&D KD on the day, combining both maps together. There was a bit of a delay before the final map in the series here. For some reason, Dashy kept lagging out of the game. They had to take a few minutes off to, well, bide their time and see what was going to happen. But they closed out their Tuscan control pretty impressively. Won their first defense with a dominant life count. Got their second offense as well. Like, honestly, their slaying on Tuscan control when they're playing well is honestly very hard to defeat, right? So yeah, London, they're not going to, well, pose the greatest threat to OpTic in theory, but the fact that OpTic can come in today and not lose a map in this tournament so far, at least in the losers bracket run, is very impressive indeed. Things will, of course, only get harder from here, but it's a great start to their campaign. They guarantee themselves top 6 at the very least. That's, of course, where they finish at Major 2, but certainly a run at beyond is possible if they play the Call of Duty that they played today. Dashy went 26-10 to finish off this map. I'm so quick recording this, the stats haven't even come out yet, so I'll just kind of chuck them on the screen at the end of the video here for you guys, but very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button, tell us on YouTube, guys, this is a good video, and I was like you should see it as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you once again as always, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.